For our attendees, everybody on this call is really an industry veteran, has spent significant amounts of time in the cannabis space. And from the Global Cannabis Network collective perspective, if you are an investor who wants to participate in future investor sneak peeks or a company seeking to pitch in the future, you can always reach out to me or Jillian Reddish at projectevolve@alwaysdriveinnovation.com to learn more. So the format for today, we will run about an hour long. We have three companies: Asana Life Sciences, Willow Industries, and Frontier Spectrum. Each presentation will run about 15 minutes long. I will be introducing the speakers and the companies briefly, but I want to give them as much time as possible to actually present. As questions occur to you, please put them in the chat box. We do like to know sort of the number of questions we'll get. We'll get to as many as we can in 5 minutes, and the others will log and record and have each company follow up separately with those asking questions if we don't get to it. So to start, Asana Life Sciences is a specialist cannabis importer and distributor offering supply chain management services across prescription and non-prescription cannabis-derived products. Their focus is the UK and Europe across all different business units within Sana, which they will lay out in their presentation. Presenters today are Ben Hamburger, Chief Executive Officer, and Arjun Rajiagor, Chief Operating Officer. Both of them have extensive consulting backgrounds prior to entering the cannabis space, most recently with Boston Consulting Group. And so, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Sana Life Sciences.
Thanks, Chris. Just put on screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Excellent.
Cool. So I think we have sort of 10-15 minutes, so we'll try and be concise. In terms of quick intros, Ben Hamburger, so MD of Sana. I qualified as an accountant quite a while ago. I spent 10 years in M&A and then 5 years in consulting with BCG, where I met Arjun.
Yeah, so everybody, I'm Arjun. I'm the COO/CTO here at Sana. Background in operations and technology. So I used to run my own technical solutions business, worked as a full stack software engineer at Goldman Sachs before joining BCG as a tech strategy consultant. And prior to all of that, I won The Apprentice in the UK in 2010.
Which we find is a lovely icebreaker. Very briefly, in terms of sort of a high level overview, we set Sana up because we getting despondent, being ruthlessly flogged by various BCG partner teams, and wanted to do something that we were interested in and that we were passionate about. So we really have sort of three divisions, two that we've been building, and one that we've almost completed the acquisition of. So we have a healthcare business where we're a fully licensed medical cannabis importer, distributor, and pharmacy. And Arjun will tell you a little bit more about that as we move through the presentation. And then Sana Lifestyle, which is a wellness product distributor. And we distribute both our own products and third-party products. And we work with many of the UK's largest retailers today. And as I mentioned, we are almost at the point now of completing our first acquisition, which is a UK-based manufacturing business, which is very exciting for many reasons, lots of synergy, and also a good opportunity to acquire some EBIT. So earnings in this sector are something that we obviously all like particularly well. But we'll give you a bit more detail about all of that. In terms of our leadership team, so it's myself and Arjun, Joel, who's chairman of Sana Lifestyle. He used to be managing director of Feel Unique, which is Europe's largest online beauty platform. Steve Hadjob,
who's acquired by Sephora, by the way.
Exactly. Steve Hadjoff's our CMO. Steve used to be chairman of the British Medical Association, one of the most senior clinicians in the UK. We work very closely with him on our healthcare business. And we're also partners with Canacell Analytics. And I guess some of you on the call will know who Dedi Miri is. And we work very closely with Dedi. And again, we'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go through our presentation. At a high level, our next funding round, we're looking at taking a larger slug of funding, and that's really because we have quite a lot of things that we're going to do with it, right? And again, we'll take you through these. So we have significant investment going into our there is significant investment going into our healthcare business, expanding our licenses into Germany and Holland. We're doing some preclinical research in healthcare. Lifestyle, we have our own dermacosmetics research being undertaken and a range under development. We're launching more brands that we'll tell you about. We're launching a pan-European brand at the same time, and then manufacturing investment into expansion, into capacity expansion. Manufacturing business is becoming, the current facilities are reaching capacity and we need to expand them. And then we have some specific acquisitions as well that we already have targeted, and we're raising financing to complete.
And as an ex-software engineer, this business would not be complete without a custom-built technology stack. So we have a rule here at Sana, and everyone on the team knows it, which is if you do the same thing 3 times, write it down and tell me, because you should never have to do it again. So we have a consistent platform that's homegrown and custom built that enables us to scale both of our businesses very quickly against a consistent core. So all of our systems are integrated with all of our partners and available both internally and externally. Happy to find more detail.
We also have a CTO that Arjun used to work with at Goldman's as well. We're definitely the only European cannabis company with 2 former Goldman tech devs.
Yeah. So I will take you through the healthcare business and kind of explain what we have today and what we're planning on doing. So in the UK, we are the only UK cannabis company that hold all necessary importation and distribution licensing in an asset-light model. And what that means is that we have service providers that we partner with that provide the services under each of these licenses, but the licenses are held by us. I was the one who had to go through the pain of the MHRA and the Home Office audits to get the licenses. So we are the ones that hold these licenses, and we are the importer and distributor of record. And what this enables us to do with our technology platform is really take out pain points within the industry and within the patient journey today by being able to optimize and completely control the entire prescription journey from importation of that product to handing it to the patient themselves. And actually it's worth noting that the legislative structure in the UK has changed of late, which actually makes it very, very difficult for new companies to be able to do this and get this same licensing structure, because they no longer allow you to do them in parallel, and you have to have done all of your investment up front before you can even have an audit. So you're looking at a long lead time to even start looking at getting these licenses now.
And the reason why that's particularly interesting very quickly is because most of the distributor models in the UK, so our healthcare competition, they don't own the full set of licenses. They're various partnerships that all work together, which is inefficient from an operational delivery perspective, and it's also more expensive because there's more mouths that need to eat out the margin pool.
Exactly. So commercially, this enables us to have basically one piece of the pie from importation all the way through to dispensing, and enable us to pass those savings on to patients as well. Now, when we look at the UK market, our approach is fundamentally different to everyone else who's here at the moment. And the center of that is leveraging data for our products. And that's because when we look at the UK market, we have cannabis clinics today where they're prescribing all kinds of products to all kinds of indications. There's a full matrix between products and indications. But when we start looking at more developed cannabis prescribing markets like Israel, for example, you see that specific products are targeted at specific indications. It is a medicine at the end of the day. It's not one size fits all. So we look to work with partners around the world to collect data and see where data already exists, to be able to engage with clinicians in this country in a meaningful way, and to show them that these products are good for these indications because of this data that has been collected over the last 15 years through either observational data collection and prescribing, or clinical trials that are being run and have been run over the past few years. So we have 3 ways that we kind of look at the market. The first is indication-specific flower and oil-based products, which are all built on observational data from 20 years worth of prescribing in Israel. And this is where our partnership with Canasol Analytics and Dedi Mirian, who is at the center of the Israeli prescribing community, really enables us to have a significant advantage and competitive advantage here. When we look at phase two, market two for us, clinical trial data, there are pockets of clinical trials happening around the world within the cannabis space. You may not have heard of them, but they are there and people are doing the work. So we're working with partners around the world whereby we're collecting and helping them collect clinical trial data, phase two efficacy data on specific indications with specific products that we can then use that data to engage with clinicians across Europe. And finally, what we're looking at is kind of what we're calling the pharmaceuticalization of the cannabis medical industry. And that's where we start looking at isolated cannabinoids or flavonoids or terpenes recombined in specific combinations, where we can then run phase two and phase three RCT data with a view for those products to get on reimbursed and licensed ledgers, similar to what GW has done to date.
And apologies for jumping in on top of you, on this one, but it's worth just noting, like, people say, okay, so why is the UK market so small? Like, and you know, whatever anyone tells you, the UK market is probably like 3,000 patients max today. So, well, why is the UK market so small? And the answer is because there's no data. And UK clinicians are different to clinicians elsewhere, and they really do require data if they're going to prescribe at scale. So our products, we only hold products in our formulary that have data. And there are various levels of data. At the more basic end, we have observational data, but actually genuine observational data and good data from 20 years of Israeli cannabis prescribing. Then also other products that have clinical data. And actually that is the way to generate scale in the UK, is products with data.
Yeah, exactly. And we're, as I said, we've got products in that phase one model, and we've got products in that phase two efficacy data model, which are coming up later this year and early next year. So for growth for this business for healthcare, our plan is obviously keep driving into the UK and start building that formulary of data-driven products that are targeted at specific indications, working with clinicians and telehealth clinics and kind of the mass market doctors in this country to really drive cannabis prescribing and try and bring it somewhat more into the mainstream. We're currently looking at an acquisition in Israel where will enable us to be able to do a local distribution play within there, and being able to provide products into the Israeli market as well from around the world. We're currently going through licensing in Germany and in Poland, where we will hold the necessary importation, distribution, and dispensing licensing as we do in the UK, with a view to deploy our formularies as we have here in the UK out into those markets, and engage with clinicians in a meaningful way there as well. And kind of the final thing that we're looking to develop here is working with an Israeli R&D partner to start conducting our own clinical research. As we've been doing this and we've been scouring the globe for the past 2 years, trying to find pockets of clinical data that exist, we realize there's not very much of it. And actually we're very well placed, or rather well placed, to be able to provide indication and direction to where that data should be collected. So we're looking at working with a partner in Israel where they have had 20 years worth of prescribing data, and they know what products have been working for people in whichever indications over the years, and they know the profiles of those specific products. And we're looking at it from a commercial perspective, looking at the UK and Europe, as to where can we really drive scale, considering it's a private pay market in most places across Europe, and there are specific indications that only fall within the right pathways. So if you take the UK as an example, only specialists can prescribe cannabis. So is this indication my specialist pathway? Will you see a specialist to deal with this? And we look at that across Europe, so across all of the different markets, and taking these two lenses, so from the Israeli data, what is efficacious, and specifically what isolated compounds within that plant and that full spectrum product were efficacious, and which indications should we be focusing on from a commercial perspective, put us in a pretty good position to be able to find the right products that we can then target at the right indications to launch onto the European market with clinical data.
Exactly. And there's some really interesting stuff coming up in this side of our business over the next few months.
Yes, very, very much so.
Cool. Cool. I'll go through the lifestyle business quite quickly. So we have two distinct offerings. They're connected in a way. So we have a distribution business. So we have a number of brands in broad distribution in the UK, both in-store and online. And then we also have a services business. So we provide services direct to, so D2C services. So for brands wanting to enter the UK market, we have a very nice tech platform, and we provide a full range of services for brands both within and outside CBD and looking to enter the UK market. So distribution business and a services business. We have a number of partner brands that we hold varying levels of exclusivity for UK distribution. Some of the sort of better known North American brands, I guess some of you guys may know, like Kanuka, CB Distillery, Dr. Kirkland. And again, with our partner brands, we get these listed into the major retailers in the UK. We often manage the D2C in the UK for them. And we often also actually do the upfront market entry consulting. So consult them, do their services work, and put them into retail distribution. And we've got brands in quite a high number of retailers. And then we have two of our own brands. One of our brands is Darren Clark CBD oil. So, as we know, you can't make claims on CBD oils, but if you license brands that have specific associations, for example, Darren Clark in golf, then actually it enables you to develop products targeted at particular use cases. So Darren Clark's a good example. We have that listed in American Golf, UK's largest golf retailer. We also manage it D2C, and we have lots of things going on with Darren and various golfing retailers. And then Eve in the UK and in Europe is a mattress brand, a listed company. It's called Eve Sleep. So we have Eve CBD. Again, we're not making the claim that you should use CBD for sleep, but when the UK consumer sees the Eve logo and sees it's on CBD oil, that's then making association. Eve will be launching in Boots in November.
I'm just conscious of time, mate.
Yeah, no worries. You want me to go quicker, mate? Then very briefly, in terms of future growth and expansion, so we've got additional own brands, which we're creating and launching. We're expanding distribution and services. Dermacosmetics range is very interesting. We could give you we'll give you an hour on what we're doing in dermacosmetics, but I'll skip over that for a second. So we're doing a dermacosmetics range, is very interesting. And then also European retail and online expansion. This really just gives a little bit of a breakdown in terms of the funds that we're raising, how we're looking to deploy them. So you can see on the healthcare side, there's expansion into the UK in terms of really an OpEx requirement. Germany, Poland, clinical research, own brand for lifestyle, distribution and service expansion, dermacosmetics, and then European retail. And then manufacturing capacity expansion, I already kind of mentioned. Product development for our manufacturing business, and then acquisitions at the moment. We have a target in Israel that we're sort of at a relatively late stage for, but we need financing for it, and then we're buying out the remaining 49% of the manufacturing business. And what that ends up with is a fairly broad European distribution business. So we will have healthcare in 4 geographies. We will have lifestyle business in at least 6 geographies. And our manufacturing business will have a UK facility, a German facility, but also supply to multiple countries across Europe.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for the overview. Really appreciate it. I want to make sure that we have a chance to get one of the questions that was proposed in before we shift. And just a reminder to attendees, this is meant as an overview to give you an idea of the breadth and scope of each of the companies. But as always, you can request more information either through the GCNC or direct to the presenters. So we did get a question that was asking about the expanded distribution into other markets in mainland Europe. You mentioned that there was a licensing process going on. And so the question is around, paraphrasing, when are you expecting you'll actually have prescribable or available products in those markets to start generating revenue? And what does that timeline look like for the company? And there's also a subset question about cash burn rate, but you can probably speculate what that's around. So,
yeah.
Germany and Poland, before we actually are generating revenues in those geographies, around 12 months.
Yeah, we're about 6 to 9 months away from getting our licenses in Germany, probably about 9 to 10 from in Poland. But we will have a product range and formulary ready for those markets because obviously we're building it for the UK today. So the second we have those licenses and are operational in those countries, product will be available.
But really, in terms of actual revenue generating, probably about 12 months. The licensing will be done a number of months before that.
Okay. And this is a question from me, but when you look at the product mix in those markets when it's available, I know there's some limitations in the UK that you referenced to, right? Around you've got to have the data to get the confidence of the prescribers. Do you foresee that same kind of challenge in these other markets, or is it going to be a quicker path to purchase essentially?
So if you look at, and I guess there are lots of, Germany and Poland are very distinct markets. Poland is at the moment just like very few options. And if you can crack the clinician engagement model, you know, Poland is kind of like fundamentally supply constrained. Germany is different in terms of, you know, and obviously people have been talking about supply constraints in Germany for however long. But really the way in which to generate market share in Germany is to go out with better data to clinicians, ultimately. And this is like this is a classic problem. So someone's entered the German market, but actually they're going to go and engage with a clinician who's been prescribing, Tilray, for example. What is the burning platform for that clinician to stop prescribing Tilray and start prescribing something else? Well, from our perspective, it would be, look at this data.
Cool.
Which, and ultimately, I think in our medium-term view is that Europe is going to be two pathways, right? You're going to have a much clearer distinction over recreational and medical. And fundamentally, when we're talking about cannabis being efficacious for medical indications, like you just can't get away from the fact that that is fundamentally data-driven. What's better?
Great. Well, thank you very much. And any closing comments over the last, we got 30 seconds left. So if you want to make a closing comment before we shift over to Jill Ellsworth with Willow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing we would say is, you know, at this stage where we are, you know, we are pretty early in terms of this funding round. There's a question around cash burn. It's not really our kind of main consideration, if I put it like that, at this stage. We're quite early in this funding round. We just want to have conversations with people and see where there's chemistry and synergy and value. So if you're interested, you know, please reach out and we'll have a chat.
Yeah, and as ex-management consultants, there is plenty of data behind every slide you saw today. So please ask for more information.
There's a lot of structure and process.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So thanks so much. And it's well done, because I'm looking at our attendance account and everybody that started with us is still there. So thanks for that. We have two more great companies to talk through. Willow Industries is up next. Willow Industries is built on one simple principle. Cannabis businesses should have the resources they need to provide patients and consumers consistently clean products. Their technology is an organic ozone-based system that safely cleans cannabis flower, hemp, and trim without compromising quality, flavor, or effect. Presenting today is Jill Ellsworth, founder and CEO of Willow. She is a serial entrepreneur, serves on the Cannabis Health and Safety Advisory Committee for the City of Denver, as well as the Technical Advisory Committee for the Cannabis Certification Council. Was selected by Marijuana Business Daily as one of the 2019 Women to Watch in Cannabis, along with a number of other accolades. So Jill, I don't want to burn into your time. Thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris. So good to be here. Hello to everyone out there. So I'm going to quickly walk through some of our slides in our Series A deck. We are really knee deep in our Series A fundraising, and the deck is much more involved typically. But right now, I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So let's get started. So I'd like to introduce you to Willow Industries. Like Chris said, I am the founder and CEO. So 5 years ago, I identified the need to address contamination in cannabis. And this was based on my background in the food safety industry. So in the food and ag industries, these supply chains all have a process to eliminate pathogenic contamination. It's a required process for all consumer goods, and it's commonly called a kill step. Now, I knew cannabis would follow a very similar trajectory. All states now have a regulatory requirement that we address. Today, our patented product is deployed across the US and Canada, and now in Puerto Rico, making Willow the emerging leader in the category that we've created. We own this category. It's called the organic cannabis kill step. So simply put, we clean cannabis. We closed 2020 with 2.6 million in revenue, a 3x increase over 2019. We are projecting $4.3 million in revenue in 2021 with 1.96 million already booked. We have 20 full-time employees in 5 states, Colorado, California, Michigan, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma. We are a recurring revenue model. We lease our proprietary hardware, which you can see on the left, with some incredible margins. We've worked with hundreds of cultivators all over the country that continue to use the Willow service and have employed our hardware with some of the largest brands in the industry. They've adopted Willow as their in-house kill step, and that's growing every day. Our breakthrough proprietary technology, which protects competitors for trying to use the same, is protected by 2 patents, method and systems. And we've executed all of this with only $2 million of financing. And today we are cash flow neutral and positive some months. And now we're going out with our Series A to accelerate our market capture. So we solve one of the biggest and most painful problems in the industry, the regulatory hurdle for retail cannabis. Contamination, which is mold and bacteria, present a health and safety danger, regulated by all states in Canada. This results in failing state mandated testing, which is a massive revenue loss. So our experience of working with hundreds of cultivators over the last 4 years have proven that at least 20% of all flower has documented microbial contamination, and far more goes unreported. So for example, 50,000 pounds failed in Colorado in 2020. That equals $150 million in lost revenue. Now, this is a long-term problem. By 2025, this will represent at least $4 to $6 billion of potential losses. And like all ag products, the government will continue to regulate a kill step. Now, our proprietary technology is really the best solution. It solves a contamination problem while maintaining full spectrum of the plant. Over the last 4 years, we've evolved our product line based on feedback from our customers, leading to the launch of our Willow Pure 360 in the fall of 2020. And that is a system on the far right. Now, our latest system provides higher throughput, better performance, lower cost, and does not require expensive installation. Listen, if you can load a washing machine, you can use Willow. Easy, easy. We have an awesome team. Like Chris mentioned, I on the board of a few different cannabis committees. I also consult with state regulatory agencies, namely California, Oklahoma, Michigan, Massachusetts. And then Jason, our co-founder, COO, has a deep financial background. Josh, our CCO, he's been with us since nearly the beginning, and he developed our entire sales, marketing, customer success team. And both of them were very influential in the launch of our Willow Pure 360. And most importantly, Josh transitioned the company from selling systems, which we did in the past, to hardware as a service, delivering a long-term recurring revenue model for Willow. So to quickly walk through our hardware as a service model, so we've evolved the proposition over the last 4 years. We've leveraged feedback from our customers to develop a model that works with their business, protects our proprietary technology, and delivers long-term recurring revenue for the company. So we implemented hardware as a service, commonly referred to as HaaS, which is an evolved lease model. It includes our hardware and a license to use our technology. So we don't sell our tech. And that allows us to maintain control of our IP. The HaaS model provides low monthly payments as part of our long-term contracts with the customers. So it's super simple. The customer pays first and last month upfront. We onboard, install, train their entire team with our Willow Pure system. Now, in terms of revenue, 80% of our revenue comes from our HaaS model and 20% comes from our services model. So we also provide services in markets that have a different regulatory framework. We have a Willow Processing Center in Northern California in Oakland, and that allows us to bring contaminated product into our facility, clean it on site, and send it back to the cultivator. We also have on-site services in Colorado and Oklahoma, and we're opening another Willow Pure Processing Center in Massachusetts in just a couple weeks. And then we also rent our system, so cultivators can essentially try it before they move into a long-term lease. The science is deep, but we use ozone as the underlying science behind the Willow solution. So I can certainly go into this, if you have questions, but just a quick overview. We maintain the full spectrum of the plant. We do not degrade, disrupt terpenes, potency, cannabinoids, terpenes, any structure, color, everything that looks the way it did went in is the same when it comes out. Now, just want to quickly touch on our revenue ramp. We have a really simple to understand revenue ramp. Basic recurring revenue model that provides compounding revenue as we onboard new customers and renew customers in the field. So by the end of 2025, we look to be a $70 million recurring revenue business. And we have a very deep financial model that Jason has built out, and we can certainly walk you through that and dig into that. And then lastly, we are raising $3 to $5 million for our Series A, and that's going to enable and accelerate our growth. So more than half of that is going to go to sales, marketing, new channel development, and employee growth. We need to meet our customer demands and accelerate our push into the market. 18% will be used to eliminate external financing that we've historically used to underwrite the cost of our systems. About 17% will go to R&D, evolving our tech, staying ahead, making sure that we continue to be very innovative here at Willow. And then 8% will go to really pushing the regulatory framework. And that is something that I do personally. And the range for 3 to 5 is simply just a factor of how fast we're able to grow. So like I mentioned, we're pretty deep into our Series A. We have about 1.5 to 2 million soft circled, and we're looking for a lead investor that makes sense for the company. So I hope I made it for our time, but I think that's about it. Thank you.
You did great on time. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We have a couple of questions.
Okay.
That have come in, and I want to start with the first one, which was about your technology development. So it says, can you elaborate as much as you are comfortable how you came about developing the proprietary tech? I asked because I'm curious, was it a stumble upon discovery or based on necessity or a formulaic approach?
It was kind of a little bit of both. It was definitely a necessity. When I really came up with the idea about 6 years ago in Colorado. One of my friends was a cultivator and said, listen, we're failing for total yeast and mold. The state's testing for this. What did you do I owned a juice company prior to this. And he's like, what did you do in that? How did you ensure that a customer was safe and that there weren't pathogens in your product? And so I kind of had this harebrained idea, I'm going to find a way to clean weed. So I looked at different types of technology that came from the food and beverage industry. We looked at pressure, we looked at heat, we looked at a bunch of different ways that have been historically used and found those weren't appropriate for cannabis. So we came upon ozone. Jason and I designed the way the system would look, and we had a contractor build the system for us, and we started original R&D, but our patents are around the method and the system. So the method is how we treat cannabis utilizing ozone. We are the only company in the United States that utilizes gaseous ozone the way we do, and we are definitely the experts in this field. And then so that's the method, and then the systems is how our system produces ozone from ambient oxygen. So it pulls in oxygen, it concentrates that, it sends it through an electrical charge to produce ozone that floods the chamber, holds it for a specific treatment time at the concentration that we have determined is appropriate for cannabis. Once it's done, it degrades it right back to oxygen.
Thank you. And that was a pretty concise and detailed answer. So if there's follow-up questions on that topic, please direct them to us afterwards, and we can go in further detail if necessary. One other question was on the allocation spend.
Sure.
A combined 54% of the projected spend, so between the 44 and the 10, I guess, is focused on new channels or sales and marketing. So in that, where are you guys looking to see the sort of the largest growth opportunity? What's the plan for that?
Yeah, certainly. So we need to really build out our sales and marketing team. We have 6 sales reps, and all of them split the entire country, plus looking at international territories. So we really need to double down on bringing on more sales representatives, customer success representatives to help support all of our partners in the field. And then we really look to, bring on channel partners to expand our international footprint. And so that's, what we're looking to do in 12 to 18 months is really start to dip our toe in more of the international waters. But sales and marketing, doubling down on that, and more marketing spend as well.
Cool. And then this is a question from me, being part of the Global Cannabis Network Collective. You mentioned looking at international markets in the future. I know that's not step 1, probably step 3 or 4, but any particular markets you're particularly interested in exploring, or regions?
Yeah, I mean, definitely European Union. I mean, we were really looking to get into Europe, Latin America. I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity for us there. And so, those are the first 2. Again, we're already in Canada, just like I said, we just Puerto Rico, but they're US. But I mean, there's a huge opportunity for our international expansion. And so we're excited about that.
Perfect. Well, Jill, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the great presentation and answering the questions. We've got a few seconds if you want to make any closing comments before we transition to Frontier Spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. Please reach out to me, Jill at Willow Industries. I'm sure you can get in touch with me through Chris and Jillian, but pleasure to be here and to present Willow.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Jill.
you.
So coming up next, as we transition slides, and Manuel, if you wouldn't mind coming up on camera, Frontier Spectrum is a Canadian holding that takes a global approach in consolidating competitive advantages in the medical cannabis industry. As they establish a strategic position in recently opened markets, they have linked the value chain with their crops in Colombia to treated patients in Germany. They operate from seed to patient. Currently, they have 2 key positions, which they'll be speaking further about in this presentation, that include production of low-cost APIs in Colombia, and Frontier Pharmaceuticals, which sells these APIs through medical kits in Germany. Today's presenter is Manuel Victoria, Chief Business Officer. Manuel is an entrepreneur, has extensive work experience in business development, has a career in strategic consulting, investment banking, fund management, brokerage, and real estate, and has managed to raise more than 10 million euros for investors in several ventures. So Manuel, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much to everybody. Great presentations. So I'm going to start. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. As Chris said, we're from Trace Spectrum, and we're basically developing the pharma cannabis industry from seed to patient. So our main purpose is focusing on developing the highest quality of pharmaceutical grade extracts and connecting the patients around the world, specifically right now in Germany, by providing medical treatments, but also, giving something else, not only just a cannabis, an opportunity to these patients, but also bring something back to these low income communities in Colombia where we have our cultivation facility. So ultimately, what we're focused is improving people life standards around the world. The main bottleneck in the cannabis industry is understanding the legal framework, from the value chain, from the seed to patient. And when you understand the legal framework, you will understand the different opportunities that the markets can offer you. So right now, we are producing low cost APIs in Colombia and serving patients with specialized treatments in Germany with those same APIs. So basically, the current legislation in the industry is projected to worth 20 and 100 billion in 2025. Basically, we have focused on the medicinal side and specifically the pharmaceutical side of the industry because right now 70% of the whole industry is medicinal. So that's where we have focused, and basically in the pharmaceutical side of the business, it's where it's difficult to enter, but once you enter, it's where the least competition um, is and the highest margins. So that's basically our focus. So we chose Canada to hold our holding company because the legal framework in Canada offers a robust financial system that will help us operate globally. In Germany, of course, in the other hand, is the biggest medicinal market in the world. By 2029, it's going to be worth 5.2 billion, and there's something very interesting on entering the German market, and is every treatment of cannabis is reimbursed by the German government through the health insurance system. So that's basically one of our first focused on Germany. And Colombia, of course, where it's the other operation, will become one of the biggest cannabis hubs in the world, not only in the cultivation side, but also with the legal framework, with a very solid legal framework. It will definitely open in the next 5 to 10 years all the recreational side and all the medicinal side. Actually, Colombia in last December opened the reimbursed for medicinal cannabis treatments. So it's a huge market. It's also 52 million people already. So we're focused and we will be developing more opportunities through the cannabis industry. So let's take a look a little bit more into deep into what we have right now. So Manta, which is our Colombian operation, it's completely licensed to grow, produce, manufacture, and export cannabis, from THC to CBD and the different cannabinoids we can have. We actually have a license that is not given anymore by the government, that we own intellectual property on the seeds, so we can kind of do all the breeding and all the molecular modifying of the genetics, so we can actually approach any client or specific client, pharmaceutical client in the world that can have a special need, and we can develop everything from seed to patient in our site. We have outstanding natural growing conditions with great contents of organic matter. Everything is organic. We already are have European standards for our production. So that's basically having no heavy metals, natural water source, everything under the European standards. Right now, we are producing 5 cents per gram in cannabis, so it's a very low cost production if you compare it to the US or Canada. We are using 100% biotraceable um, system software from the seed, all the production and all the cultivation methods to the end client already. And we're also hiring, as I spoke yesterday, lastly, in all the low-income communities and everything, we're hiring Venezuelan refugees as an initiative, as a social impact. And we're supporting low-income communities by helping build schools in our region and all the educational side. We're also supporting small agriculture farmers. So that's kind of what we're doing in Colombia right now. And we're based in Medellin, Colombia. Our site is around 40 kilometers from Medellin. Frontier Pharmaceuticals, which is our other operation in Germany, is already improving patients' life standards. We are treating right now epilepsy kids, specifically an epilepsy called Dravet syndrome, which is a very hard epilepsy, like 25 or 30 epilepsy attacks. And we're right now with our treatments, we have come down to one or two per day to the patients we're treating right now. Um, all our treatments are reimbursed by the government, as I said. And we have a special ally in Germany, which is the Charité Hospital, the best and biggest hospital in Germany, where we're doing a lot of R&D, specifically to develop new treatments and products. Right now, we are very into the oncology side with all the cancer treatments, and we have promising right now clinical trials and studies on cancer, and will we keep furthering in all this R&D with the Charité Hospital. Also, the Charité Hospital is referring us patients, and we forecast by 2025 we will be treating 1,300 patients in epilepsy, 27,000 in oncology, and 4,700 ADHD patients. Will be one of the good things is that we will be replicating our model into other European markets as Czech Republic that also has reimbursement. But there are pilots in Denmark, Switzerland, and Austria. So we will be scaling up, and new opportunities will come as we go through the deck. This wouldn't be happening if we didn't have the team, the specialized team in every of the matters in the cultivation side in Colombia, in the pharmaceutical side, with more than 70 years of combined experience in the pharmaceutical side of being executives of pharmaceutical companies, but also on the strategy, on the legal, because the legal framework is our cornerstone onto developing new opportunities and entering new markets. And well, we'll see a very scale up business in the future for 2025 with outstanding revenues for both companies. Of course, everything is holding and creating value in the holding company. So basically, um, what we need, and that's why we are approaching right now, because we're right now in Frontier Spectrum finishing um, our fundraising. So just to talk a little bit about the capital that we need in Manta, 2 years ago we raised $500,000, and we are right now injecting more funds into developing all the site and everything that we need to achieve the large scale production. And Frontier Spectrum right now is doing or finishing a seed capital raising as holding company of 1.5 million. We already raised 1 million, and basically those funds will go into the companies directly, into Manta in Colombia for finishing the growing facility, the large scale facility, and to um, expand our sales and distribution channels for our medical kits in Germany. So basically, what we need besides capital is advice on the future company development, company board members that we're creating, and giving more value to our holding company, strategic partnerships to penetrate new markets, and more exposure to be able to increase life standards. And just to finish in the capital, we once we finish this round, we are preparing a Series A round for the end of the year. That Series A round will be of 5 million. The investors who invest in the seed capital will be protected with anti-dilution. and they will have preferred investment for the Series A round if they're willing to do that. Basically, that round will go into the pharma industry, mainly 80% of the funds, and into Manda for new agri-tech development that we're doing right now, and health tech with all the e-prescription and having everything online for all the medical treatments that we're using into Germany, but also new opportunities like Mexico. We already have a pre-agreement to enter Mexico with the same German model, business model that we have, and we will be keep expanding our food to become in 2025 one of the biggest conglomerates of cannabis industry. So this is Frontier Spectrum. To find more about us or how can you support us, please contact us on the email below.
Thanks, Manuel. Really appreciate it. Great presentation. And I should also mention to the audience that there's contextually not in a pitch format, but more information on these companies through some of the podcasts that the GCNC has done. There's a lot of information on the GCNC platform for those of you who are members as well. And of course, contact them directly because they've got all the great details available for you. I do
have deck, PPM, and everything if you need more information, more deep information about the business.
Yeah, and I do have two questions for you. They're kind of tied, actually, I think. But one of them was related to the low cost of production. You've got it at 5 cents per gram in the deck. And the question is, does that appear to be sustainable as you scale? And do you have sufficient cultivation space today to fulfill sort of the product delivery obligations that you're anticipating in the near term?
That's a great question. So yeah, once we keep expanding our operations, actually the cost could go down, but it is very straightforward. We've done a lot of trials. We have 23 hectares. That's around like 50 acres of land in Colombia. And what we plan is not keep buying more land, but we have a kind of a M&A strategy in Colombia where we will conglomerate a lot of small cultivators or farmers here in Colombia that they do not have access to international markets. And we will give them some technical standards so they meet our standards of production. We will give them all the technology. And basically we can, by this way, we can grow actually like infinite into the Colombian territory. And we will buy them the product and we will sell it in extraction, sell it in the international markets. So basically we have no problem on expanding our land, not only ours, that is 23 hectares, but also keep joining with small farmers already. We're already in talks with a lot of them.
Great. And so this is kind of a follow-up question to that. So you mentioned production to European standards, which are of course required for the German markets and other European markets. The question though is specifically around whether or not you have EU GMP certification facilities as opposed to just producing to European standards.
Great question also. So right now in Colombia, we are acquiring the GACP certificate and the GMP certificate. That will happen in the next months. We're already in the process. We know that we meet all the standards already, but they have to. Actually, we're using a European company that will be certifying us, and we will have everything in place. And also the extraction facility is in Europe with all the European standards, and that's how we're gonna, to deliver the APIs.
Perfect. Thank you, Manuel. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank as well Ben and Arjun and Jill for participating today. The attendees and investors on the line, thanks for participating and staying through to the end. All of our presenters really appreciate that as well. For those who are not yet GCNC members, I do want to do a bit of a plug for the Global Cannabis Network Collective. Our goal is to bring companies and professionals together around the world to expand global markets. We do programs like this both internally to the GCNC as well as externally for people who are trying to learn more about the cannabis marketplace. And I am super proud to be able to work with people like those we've had on today and those listening in. So if you have follow-up questions about any of these companies, please do email each presenter individually, or you can reach out to myself at projectevolve@alwaysdriveinnovation.com. Thanks again, everybody. Great session, and we look forward to the next time.
Thank you very much to all you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Gillian.
Nice to meet you guys. Thank you.
Have a nice